The New Yam Festival, Iri was the most anticipated event in Umunri. It was a time of joy, gratitude, and unity, where the villagers celebrated the harvest and honored their ancestors. The village square was decorated with palm fronds and colorful fabrics, and the air was filled with the aroma of roasted yams, spicy soups, and fresh palm wine. Drummers, dancers, and storytellers gathered to entertain the crowd, and the sacred drum, Ojin, stood at the center of it all. Ezeji stood at the edge of the square, his heart racing with excitement and nervousness. He had been chosen to play the sacred drum, an honor usually reserved for the most experienced drummers. His father, Okonkwo, had played the drum for many years, and now it was Ezeji's turn to carry on the tradition. As the ceremony began, the villagers formed a circle around the drum. The chief elder, Nwabueze, raised his hands and the crowd fell silent. Today, we give thanks to the earth for its bounty and to our ancestors for their guidance. He said, "Let the music begin." Ezeji stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly as he approached the drum. He took a deep breath and began to play. At first, the rhythm was steady and soothing, and the villagers swayed to the music, their faces filled with joy. But as the performance continued, Ezeji's pride began to take over. He wanted to impress the crowd, to show them that he was the greatest drummer in Umunri. He started to play faster and louder, adding complex rhythms he had not yet mastered. The drum began to strain under the pressure, and the elders exchanged worried glances. Okonkwo, watching from the crowd, clenched his fists, hoping his son would slow down. But Ezeji was lost in the moment, his pride blinding him to the danger. Suddenly, there was a loud crack. The drum split in two and the music stopped abruptly. The villagers gasped and the elders rose to their feet, their faces filled with horror. Ezeji stood frozen, his hands still hovering over the broken drum. Nwabueze stepped forward, his voice trembling with anger. "This is a bad omen," he declared. "The sacred drum is broken and the ancestors are displeased. Ezeji, you have brought shame upon our village." Ezeji's heart sank as the villagers began to murmur among themselves. He looked to his father for support, but Okonkwo's face was filled with disappointment. The elders gathered to discuss Ezeji's fate, and after a heated debate, they decided to banish him from the village until he could repair the drum and restore the ancestors' favor. As Ezeji packed his belongings and prepared to leave, he felt a deep sense of shame and regret. He had let his pride get the better of him, and now he was paying the price. But as he walked away from Umunri, he vowed to make things right. He would find a way to repair the drum and prove to his village that he was worthy of their trust. Ezeji walked away from Umunri with the broken drum strapped to his back. The weight of the drum mirrored the heaviness in his heart. The forest loomed ahead, dense and unfamiliar, but he had no choice but to venture into it. The elders had spoken. He could not return until the drum was repaired and the ancestors' favor restored. As he entered the forest, the sounds of the village faded behind him, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds. Ezeji felt a pang of loneliness, but pushed it aside. He had a mission, and he would not let fear or doubt stop him. After hours of walking, Ezeji came across a small clearing where an old woman sat by a fire. Her name was Neka, and her eyes sparkled with wisdom as she greeted him. "Young man," she said, "you carry a heavy burden. What brings you to this part of the forest?" Ezeji hesitated, but then told her his story, how he had broken the sacred drum during the New Yam festival and been banished from his village. Neka listened intently, her expression thoughtful. When he finished, she nodded and said, "The path to redemption is never easy, but it is possible. There is a drum maker who lives deep in the forest. She may be able to help you." Ezeji's eyes lit up with hope. "Where can I find her?" Neka smiled and handed him a small pouch of herbs. "Take this. It will protect you on your journey, but remember, the drum maker will not help you unless you prove yourself worthy. She will ask you a riddle and you must answer it correctly." "What is the riddle?" Ezeji asked eagerly. Neka's smile widened. "That is for you to discover." But I will give you a clue. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Ponder this as you travel. Ezeji frowned, confused by the riddle, but he thanked Neka and continued on his way. As he walked, he repeated the riddle in his mind, trying to make sense of it. The forest grew darker, and the path became harder to see, but Ezeji pressed on, determined to find the drum maker. Along the way, he encountered various challenges. He had to cross a narrow log over a rushing stream, and the fear of falling made his legs shake. He reminded himself of his father's words, "A tree that grows too tall will break in the storm." He took a deep breath and crossed slowly, one step at a time. Later, he heard the growl of a wild animal nearby. His heart raced, but he remembered Neka's herbs and held them tightly, whispering a prayer to the ancestors. The growling faded, and Ezeji continued on, feeling a sense of relief. As night fell, Ezeji found a safe spot to rest. He built a small fire and sat beside it, staring at the broken drum. He thought about his village, his family, and the mistakes he had made. For the first time, he truly understood the weight of his actions. The drum was not just an object, it was a symbol of his people's connection to their ancestors and their traditions. Ezeji vowed to do whatever it took to repair the drum and restore his villagers' harmony. With Neka's riddle echoing in his mind, he lay down to sleep, ready to continue his journey at dawn. The next morning, Ezeji woke to the sound of birds chirping and the gentle rustling of leaves. He ate a small meal of dried fruit from his pack and continued his journey, following the faint path through the forest. The air was cool, and the sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground. After several hours, Ezeji reached a wide river that blocked his path. The water rushed swiftly, and there was no bridge in sight. He stood on the riverbank, wondering how he would cross. Just as he was about to look for a way around, a fisherman named Onyeka appeared in a small canoe. "Greetings, traveler," Onyeka called out. "Do you need help crossing the river?" Ezeji nodded eagerly. "Yes, please. I must continue my journey." Onyeka paddled closer and studied Ezeji for a moment. "I will take you across, but first, you must answer a riddle. If you answer correctly, I will ferry you to the other side. If not, you must find another way." Ezeji hesitated, but agreed. "What is the riddle?" Onyeka smiled and said, "What is sweeter than honey and sharper than a sword?" Ezeji frowned, thinking hard. He considered many answers: love, anger, fire, but none seemed to fit. Onyeka noticed his struggle and gave him a hint. "It can build a village or destroy a kingdom." Ezeji's eyes widened as the answer came to him. "Words," he exclaimed. "Words are sweeter than honey when they are kinder and sharper than a sword when they are cruel." Onyeka nodded, clearly impressed. "You are wise, young man. Come, I will take you across." As they crossed the river, Onyeka shared a proverb: "A man who listens to the river will never drown." Ezeji pondered the meaning as the water flowed around them. He realized that the river, like life, could be unpredictable, but by listening and learning, he could navigate its challenges. When they reached the other side, Ezeji thanked Onyeka and continued his journey. The riddle and the proverb stayed with him, reminding him of the power of words and the importance of wisdom. He felt a little more confident knowing that he was growing stronger with each challenge he faced. As Ezeji ventured deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and the sunlight dimmed. The air felt heavier, and the sounds of birds and animals faded, replaced by an eerie silence. This part of the forest was known as the Forest of Shadows, a place where many travelers lost their way. Ezeji felt a chill run down his spine, but he pressed on, determined to find the drum maker. The path became harder to see, and the shadows seemed to move around him. He heard whispers in the wind, though no one was there. His heart raced, but he reminded himself of the lessons he had learned so far: patience, courage, and humility. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a hunter named Chukwuemeka, carrying a bow and a quiver of arrows. His face was stern, but his eyes held a glimmer of kindness. "You are brave to travel through this forest alone," Chukwuemeka said, "but bravery is not enough here. The forest of shadows tests the heart. Many have entered, but few have found their way out. Ezeji swallowed hard. I must find the drum maker. She is my only hope of repairing the sacred drum and restoring my village's harmony. Chukwemeka nodded. Then you must face your fears. The forest will show you what you fear most, but remember this: a man who fears the forest will never find the path. With those words, Chukwemeka disappeared into the shadows, leaving Ezeji alone. As he continued walking, the forest seemed to come alive. The shadows twisted and turned, forming shapes that made his heart race. He saw visions of his village turning their backs on him, his father's disappointed face and the broken drum lying in pieces. Ezeji wanted to run, but he remembered Chukwemeka's words. He took a deep breath and faced the shadows. I am not afraid, he said aloud, though his voice trembled. I will find my way. As he spoke, the shadows began to fade, and the path became clearer. Ezeji realized that the forest had been testing him, forcing him to confront his fears. He felt a sense of relief and continued walking, his resolve stronger than ever. As Ezeji emerged from the forest of shadows, he found himself in a clearing where a small, desolate village stood. The huts were crumbling, and the villagers moved slowly, their faces filled with sadness. The air was heavy with silence, and there was no laughter or music, only the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. Ezeji approached a young girl named Adara, who was sitting by a fire, staring into the flames. What happened here? He asked gently. Adara looked up, her eyes filled with tears. Long ago, our sacred drum was stolen. Without it, we lost our connection to the ancestors. Our traditions faded, and our village fell into despair. Ezeji's heart ached as he listened. He thought of his own village and the broken drum he carried. Is there no way to restore your drum? He asked. Adaora shook her head. We have tried, but the drum maker who created it is gone. Without the drum, we are lost. Ezeji felt a deep sense of responsibility. He realized that the drum was not just an object, but a symbol of unity and identity. He knelt beside Adaora and said, I am on a journey to repair my village's sacred drum. When I succeed, I will return and help you find a way to restore yours. Adaora's eyes lit up with hope. She handed Ezeji a small wooden carving of a drum. Take this as a token of our gratitude. May it guide you on your journey. Ezeji thanked her and continued on his way, the carving tucked safely in his pack. As he walked, he thought about the importance of tradition and the role it played in keeping a community strong. He vowed to not only repair his village's drum, but also to help others who had lost their way. Ezeji's journey led him to the foot of a towering mountain. Its peak was shrouded in clouds, and the path upward was steep and rocky. He knew this was the next challenge he had to face. Taking a deep breath, he began to climb. The ascent was grueling. The rocks were slippery and the air grew thinner as he climbed higher. His muscles ached and his hands were raw from gripping the jagged stones. But Ezeji pressed on, driven by his determination to repair the drum and restore his village's harmony. About halfway up the mountain, he came across an old man named Namdi, who was sitting by a small fire. Namdi's face was weathered, but his eyes were kind. He gestured for Ezeji to sit and rest. You are brave to climb this mountain, Namdi said, but bravery alone will not get you to the top. You must also have patience. Ezeji nodded, catching his breath. I am in a hurry to find the drum maker. My village depends on me. Namdi smiled and shared a proverb. The moon moves slowly, but it crosses the town. He explained, just as the moon takes its time to travel across the sky, you must take your time to reach your goal. Rushing will only lead to mistakes. Ezeji thought about the proverb and realized that his impatience had caused him to break the drum in the first place. He thanked Namdi for his wisdom and continued his climb, this time moving more slowly and deliberately. As he climbed, he reflected on his journey so far. He had faced many challenges and learned valuable lessons about humility, courage, and patience. He felt a sense of pride in how far he had come, but he knew the hardest part was still ahead. When he finally reached the summit, the view took his breath away. The forest stretched out below him, and in the distance, he could see a faint trail leading to a small hut. He knew that the drum maker was close. Ezeji descended the mountain, his heart pounding with anticipation. The trail led him to a small hut, nestled in a clearing surrounded by tall trees. Smoke rose from the chimney, and the sound of rhythmic hammering echoed through the air. This had to be the home of the drum maker. As he approached, an old woman emerged from the hut. Her hair was silver and her hands were rough from years of work. She looked at Ezeji with piercing eyes and said, "Who are you, and why have you come?" Ezeji bowed respectfully. "My name is Ezeji. I come from the village of Umunri. I broke our sacred drum during the New Yam festival, and the elders banished me until I could repair it. I was told you could help me." The drum maker, whose name was Mabechi, studied him for a moment. "I can repair your drum," she said, "but only if you prove yourself worthy. Answer this riddle. What is the sound of one hand clapping?" Ezeji's mind raced. He remembered Nika's clue and the lessons he had learned on his journey. He thought about the importance of silence, balance, and introspection. Finally, he answered, "The sound of one hand clapping is silence." Migbechi's eyes sparkled with approval. "You have learned well," she said. "Come inside." Ezeji followed her into the hut, which was filled with drums of all shapes and sizes. Migbechi took the broken drum from him and examined it carefully. "This drum is not just wood and skin," she said. "It carries the spirit of your ancestors. To repair it, I will need sacred materials and your help." Ezeji nodded eagerly. "I will do whatever it takes." Migbechi handed him a piece of wood and a carving tool. "Carve this into the shape of a drum," she instructed. As Ezeji worked, Migbechi prepared the sacred materials, herbs, animal skin, and a special oil made from the bark of an ancient tree. As they worked together, Migbechi shared stories of the ancestors and the importance of preserving traditions. Ezeji listened intently, feeling a deep connection to his heritage. He realized that the drum was not just an object, but a symbol of his people's identity and unity. When the drum was finally repaired, Mugbechi handed it to Ezeji. "Remember," she said, "the drum isn't just for you. It is for the people. Use it wisely." Ezeji thanked her and left the hut, feeling a sense of accomplishment and hope. He was ready to return to Umunri and restore his village's harmony. With the repaired drum securely strapped to his back, Ezeji began the journey back to Umunri. The path felt lighter now, as if the forest itself recognized the importance of his mission. The drum, once broken and silent, now seemed to hum with a quiet energy, as though the ancestors themselves were guiding him home. As he walked, Ezeji reflected on everything he had learned. The journey had tested him in ways he never imagined, but it had also taught him invaluable lessons. He thought about the riddle of the one hand clapping, the wisdom of the talking river, and the courage it took to face the forest of shadows. Each challenge had shaped him, humbling his pride and strengthening his spirit. When he reached the outskirts of Umunri, he paused. The village looked just as he had left it, but he felt like a different person. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, the drum resting firmly against his back. The villagers noticed him immediately. Whispers spread like wildfire, and soon a crowd gathered. The elders, led by Nwabueze, approached him. Ezeji bowed low, showing respect. "Ezeji," Nwabueze said, his voice stern, but not unkind. "You have returned. Have you repaired the sacred drum?" Ezeji nodded and carefully unstrapped the drum, holding it out for the elders to see. The villagers gasped as they saw the drum, whole and beautiful once more. The elders examined it closely, their expressions softening. "This is the work of the drum maker," one of the elders said, recognizing the craftsmanship. "You have done well, Ezeji, but tell us, what have you learned on your journey?" Ezeji stood tall and spoke from the heart. "I have learned that pride can blind us to the wisdom of our elders and the needs of our community. I have learned that traditions are not just rituals, but the roots that keep us strong. And I have learned that the drum is not just an object, It is the heartbeat of our people, connecting us to our ancestors and to one another. The elders exchanged glances, and Wabueze nodded. You have grown, Ezeji. The ancestors are pleased, but the true test will come when you play the drum. Let us see if it still carries their spirit. The villagers gathered in the square, and Ezeji took his place beside the drum. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to play. The rhythm was steady and powerful, echoing through the village like a heartbeat. The villagers swayed to the music, their faces filled with joy and relief. The ancestors' presence was palpable, and the harmony of the village was restored. When the music ended, the villagers erupted into cheers. Ezeji's father Okonkwo stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. You have made me proud, my son, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Ezeji smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not only repaired the drum, but also repaired the trust and unity of his village. The village of Umunri was alive with celebration. The sacred drum had been restored, and the ancestors' favor had returned. The villagers danced and sang, their joy echoing through the square. Ezeji stood at the center of it all, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. As the festivities continued, the elders called for a special ceremony to honor Ezeji's journey and the lessons he had brought back to the village. The villagers gathered around the sacred drum, and Wabweze stepped forward to speak. Today, we celebrate not only the return of our sacred drum, but also the growth of one of our own, Nwabweze said. Ezeji has shown us the importance of humility, wisdom, and the preservation of our traditions. Let his journey serve as a reminder to us all. Ezeji stepped forward, holding the drum proudly. He addressed the villagers, his voice steady and clear. I stand before you not as the boy who left in shame, but as a man who has learned the value of our traditions and the strength of our community. The drum is not just mine, it belongs to all of us. It is the heartbeat of Umunri, connecting us to our ancestors and to one another. The villagers cheered, and Ezeji's father Okonkwo stepped forward once more. My son, he said, you have proven yourself worthy. You have not only repaired the drum, but also restored the spirit of our village. I am proud to call you my son. Ezeji felt tears welling up in his eyes as he embraced his father. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had brought him closer to his family, his community, and his heritage. As the celebration continued, Ezeji noticed a group of children gathered around the drum, their eyes wide with wonder. He knelt down and showed them how to play a simple rhythm, passing on the knowledge and traditions that had been entrusted to him. The children laughed and clapped, their joy infectious. That night, as the villagers gathered around the fire to share stories and songs, Ezeji felt a deep sense of peace. He had come full circle from a prideful boy to a humble man who understood the true meaning of community and tradition. The story of Ezeji and the broken drum became a legend in Umunri, passed down from generation to generation. It served as a reminder that pride can lead to downfall, but humility and wisdom can restore even the deepest wounds. And so, the heartbeat of Umunri continued, strong and steady, guided by the lessons of the past and the hope of the future. And so, we conclude the tale of Ezeji and the broken drum. This story teaches us three important lessons. 1. Pride can blind us, but humility rebuilds. Ezeji's journey shows that true greatness comes from listening to wisdom and valuing community over self. 2. Traditions are our roots. The sacred drum symbolizes the connection to our ancestors and the identity that binds us together. 3. Redemption is possible. Through perseverance and humility, Ezeji not only repaired the drum but also restored his village's harmony. Let us carry these lessons forward, honoring our past while building a stronger future. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Afro Native Tales for more African folk tales. Until next time, may the wisdom of the ancestors guide you.